very complex. Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Horst Lüning. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com, and today we have the Cambus, 40 years old, vintage 1975 here on my cask. It's heftily priced at around €1,000, 750 pounds, no idea how much in dollars, and it's a single grain whiskey from the Cambus Distillery. Cambus is an old, long closed distillery. I think it was closed in 1993. I read it in the book. I will shortly give you a few sentences from here. And it's located in the northeast of Stirling, close to a town named Alloa. And there's the Cameron Brick Distillery close by, and the Black Range Bond as well. And I visited the distillery, not the inside, just the outside, in 1994. I had a Cambus whiskey already here on my cask. I wasn't aware of it, that it was a Cambus whiskey. It was the Kelly. I took a video a year ago, I think, roughly. The whiskey itself comes in a huge box. There were only 1,812 bottles filled, and hefty. And yeah, here is the bottle and the box. And there's a small leaflet in here, or a small book, and in it there is a river of fire. One of those stories unfolded on the night of the 23rd September 1914, when there was a great fire at the distillery. By the time fire crews arrived at 3 a.m., a large crowd had gathered to watch the blaze. Luckily, plenty of water was on hand in the shape of the River Devon, but the total destruction of the grand stores, mills, maltings, grain conveyors, stables and motor house could not be prevented, with damage estimated £30,000. £30,000 in those times, an awful lot of money. It's very difficult to read because the fonts change always. Cambus Distillery closed until in 1938. It was entirely rebuilt at a cost of £275,000, now employing 200 men. Only part of the 1886 stillhouse was left intact. And there was a marketing tagline saying, "Not a headache in a gallon." Advertisement has to be true. And if you drink a gallon of Cambus, I think you will have a headache, really. It's hardly a claim you'd make today, but when a 7-year-old Cambus patent still Scotch grain Scotch whisky was launched in 1906, this advertising headline pulled no punches. It was controversial. The whisky itself, even more so, for its right to be termed whisky at all, was challenged by Scotland's pot still malt whisky producers. They feared the commercial effects of the comparison being made between this smooth patent still spirit and the heavier, oilier pot still malt whiskies of the north of Scotland and the islands. And in 1908, a royal commission was set up to decide what was whisky and what was not, and they decided that patent still whisky could be named whisky as well. Yeah, and so on and so on. In the beginning, there had been some maltings there as well. Today, patent still whiskies are typically, well, unmalted whiskies, and the flour, the starch, is broken to sugars by heat and pressure. You put some some overpressure into the tanks and heat them up, and then you add some sour residue from the last mash, and then, well, the yeast, no, the sourness will help crack the starch into sugars, and then in the fermenting, the yeast will be able to work on the sugars. And if you add some sourness there as well, then the yeast will work better. Yeah. Highly approachable and very rewarding, deceptively complex and fresh for its age. This is an incredibly well integrated and harmonious, not to mention exceedingly rare 40-year-old single grain that is light yet sumptuous, fresh and clean. And it's best with water, and with a fine relaxed finish it makes an unusual and delicious aperitif. 52.7 ABV, limited edition. The third single grain whiskey to be bottled as a special release, and very interesting to compare with the recent 40-year-old The Kelly bottling. From refill American oak casks, hogsheads. Yeah. Appearance deep gold with amber lights. Yeah. Very deep gold. Surprisingly lively, quickly mellowing to sweetness. Clean, fruity top notes of ripe red apples, pineapple, Cape gooseberry rise above a wide-ranging soft sweet melange of boiled and soft chew strawberry sweets, short crust pastry and milk chocolate with smooth succulent toffee, nutty with a trace of candle wax. It becomes softer with a little water, slowly building a gentle, piney, mint-fresh wood note with faint, waxy red berries, then gaining depth with dark toffee, blur, 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 blur. Body light, very soft. Palate cool, light, drying and piney. Graining heat. Gaining heat. And sweetness together as if a salted caramel ice cream was infused with savory smoke. Smoke? Where does the smoke come from? This is just heat and pressure cracked. Probably wheat. In that time, probably corn, maize. Then quite dense and raisiny, with hints of pear drops and plum and pungency right to the finish. Yeah, here you see the picture of the old workforce. Yeah. And the Cambus was one of the 6 lowland grain distilleries that combined to form the Distillers Company in 1877, the heart of which today is Diageo. Yeah, and Alfred Barnard, the famous whiskey traveler and writer, visited the distillery in 1886. There are some facsimile books of his work, The Distilleries of the United Kingdom, out on the market. And there you can read his old stories. And here he said, on January the 12th that year, the 6 warehouses were home to 17,002 casks, holding 1.3 million gallons of whiskey of various ages. So here we go. We have a little sample from the distributor. Thank you very much for it. And I decided to have this one neat because I raised the amount of whiskey I'm tasting neat up to 53%, and this is 52.7, so it's close to. And because this is a grain and because it's so old, I think the alcohol will be very well bound into the overall taste. Very complex, lively, full, sweet, a lot of fruit, and probably this gooseberry bring a little dryness. And no toffee, not a lot, and milk chocolate, no, not as well. But a nutty aroma, yeah. And showing some, well, eucalyptus, probably, some drops. Yeah. Wow, the alcohol has some impact. It's full in the mouth, becoming drier, warming. Well, and some pine wood. Yeah. Little sweet, and then dried fruit afterwards. So these old grain whiskies live from the cask, as the old malt whiskies live from their cask as well, and brandy and cognac. So most of the taste will come from the casks. These are refill hogsheads, and of course they're not that intense as a fresh sherry cask would have been, or a fresh ex-bourbon cask. But after 40 years, even a hogshead brings a lot of aromas into a whiskey. And when it's column still produced, it's lighter, it's smoother. Yeah, and probably I give it a few drops of water, just very few. Looking if there is. More fruit showing up. So probably I'm around 50 now. Yeah, seems as if there's some smokiness in it, but I think it's an aromatic note from the wood. Those pine tree resin. Officially they say creme brulee, but too few caramel, too few vanilla. It's more on the fruity side, on the dark fruits, on the ripe fruits, together with the spiciness of the oak. And the ginger, well, behind the alcohol, not a lot. Yeah, a lot better with just a few drops of water. And now mouth-watering. Sweet and becoming drier. And, well, the ginger is there. Very faint oakiness, not bitter at all. Tending to fruit cake. The nuttiness. Yeah. Typically I do not like the grain whiskies because they get a lot of oakiness and bitterness from the reused casks. But this grain whiskey shows no bitterness at all, is very well made, is very ripe, fruity, complex. So it shows the best what a grain whiskey is able to deliver. It's really expensive, so if you can afford it, just buy it. But if you have to look after your money, and well, I think there are some malt whiskies, older malt whiskies for half the price on the market, which will taste better. No, a little different. And because they're cheaper, I think they're better. Yeah. So have a look at our whiskey database. Probably there had been somewhere already there, adding some tasting notes of his own and some judging points, quality points to this whiskey. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned.